last week, the House of Representatives, the House Ag Committee to be more specific, had its first hearing on the North Carolina Farm Act. You'll remember the Farm Act has already passed the North Carolina Senate, and so it is now over in the House, and this was the first hearing. It was only for discussion. There were no votes taken. The majority of the discussion, really all of the discussion, was on two issues, both of which we've talked about before, so you've got the background. But the first one dealt with the digesters on hog farms. So again, this is where it's directing DEQ to establish a general permit for these hog farms that want to put digesters where they'll collect the natural gas or the methane off the digesters and inject it into the pipeline to use as renewable natural gas. That garnered quite a bit of discussion about whether it was going to be environmentally friendly, whether it was about doing enough on those hog farms. The second issue, again, we've already talked about on background a little bit, has to do with the Department of Labor and the investigations that they do on employee retaliations. In this case, remember, the Farm Act is making a slight change to that particular set of statutes that would allow a letter that DOL would write to an employer that said, we've received a complaint, we've investigated it and not found any wrongdoing on your part, that would actually allow that letter to be admissible as evidence in any civil trial that would take place later between the employee and the employer. The discussion really had to do about whether it was favoring the employer too much or favoring the employee too much, and so it'll continue to be a topic of discussion. Again, this was only for discussion only, so they did not take a vote. It'll probably come up either this week or next in another House Ag Committee. It's got several committees to go through after that as well. So look for probably a vote there this week or next as far as the first committee vote in the House of Representatives. We've talked about in the past how the House and the Senate were continuing to negotiate on the budget, haven't reached any sort of an agreement. Well, they have reached an agreement now. Last week they agreed on the top line numbers, so the total budget, state budget spend for the next 2 years. They have agreed. They still have to work through the actual very specific pieces of the budget, but at least they know now they have agreed on what that total number is going to be. Look for the Senate to probably start having maybe a public hearing or two in the very near future, but this will likely mean that instead of having the budget done by the end of June, it'll probably be closer to the end of July that it'll go through its entire process, but at least we've sort of got the roadmap now that there is a budget number in place that they'll work on. Whether the governor will sign this budget or not, we don't know. Several of his big items that he put in his budget are likely not going to be in the budget that the House and the Senate negotiate. Things like Medicaid expansion, a large bond package for school construction. Those types of things look to be off the table at the moment between the House and the Senate. So we'll see how much the governor gets involved and whether they actually get a fully signed and agreed to budget this year or not. But we've got a little bit of time, probably look maybe towards the end of July. We'll see where all that goes.